just in. Well, soon you probably won't be even allowed to go to Japan.
That's not going to happen whatsoever. Even though, the far-right party Sanseito has gained ground in Japanese legislators after elections. But however, it's not going to happen whatsoever. Because understand this, if Japan's going to start doing that type of stuff, like, banning and even expelling foreigners out of the country, it's going to crash the Japanese economy, and Japanese society is going to start to become more dysfunctional without those foreigners. Because understand is that Japan's population is declining and rapidly aging, that the Japanese government is trying everything they can to try to, fix this declining populations. They're trying paying people to have children, they're trying to give tax breaks and tax credits to, people for having children, but none of them didn't work. So the only desperate option is to import, those foreign migrants to come to Japan to work in, those critical industries that's suffering, the worker shortages. Whether it's, hospitality, you got, the elderly care, you got the service, you got the manufacturers, and even high-scale positions in those Japanese companies. Because understand that Japanese economy is dependent on, the tourism. Because the tourism is just starting to make up, most of, the economic growth in Japan. Since you got all those foreign capitals coming into Japan, and foreigners bring all their money to spend in Japan. But if Japan starts, restricting them, or even try to put, a limit on it, it's just going to hurt the tourist industry quite badly. That they're not going to barely make any money whatsoever. Because understand is that in the future, that Japan's going to have to increase immigrations and import those foreigners into the countries to fill in those, those labor gaps of once, Japanese people start to retire from their career fields. And that's why they're going to be dependent on the foreigners. Because when you have a declining populations, you have worker shortages, you have schools and daycare centers are closing down, and you're going to see more elderly populations than the children's populations. And this is only going to get worse in the near future. Because by the end of the century, Japan's going to lose half of its populations. Even though that Japan's government is trying to do everything they can, but they just couldn't. It's probably, the culture, like, the long working hours, and even, other factors, like the women's entering the workforce. And also, despite all this, Japanese people having prejudices and negative views on foreigners, but they're going to have to get used to it, and they're going to have to start taking appreciations of those foreigners, because those foreigners is going to help keep your Japanese economy and society afloat. Even though the foreigners and immigration is not going to fix the declining population in the long run, but at least it's going to buy you some time until you figure out how you're going to, figure out this population crisis as we're going forward in the 21st century.